If you want some FIFA 23 coins, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code Rema, you can get yourself a 5% discount.
So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. I'm sorry this video is a little bit late today. I'm still not feeling too well. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but yeah, this weekend's also been very hectic. So in today's video guys, we've got 422 custom tactics and player instructions that I've updated for you guys, and yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy. Just before we get into the video though, I'd very much appreciate it if you guys could drop this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, for custom tactics on the defensive style, I like to use balance. The reason for this is the same as all my other formations and tactics. Balance is just the most balanced, as you'd probably guess. It means you can press when you want to press and you can drop back a little bit when you'd want to drop back, so it does give you the best control when you are defending. So I do suggest using balanced. A lot of people do like using pressure tactics, but I'm not a big fan of using them, so I just use balance. But if you want to use something else, that is completely up to you. For defensive width guys, I like to use 42. The reason for this is you do defend in quite a narrow way, because people do like to play through the middle in this game, so it's important that you do have the central areas marked, and it also does give you a bit of width, so when people do play down the wing, you've also got that space covered. So it does give you a nice balance, but it's best for primarily defending those narrow attacks. Now for depth, I like to have this on 46. The reason for this is obviously through balls are very good in this game. They're very broken, especially after the updates that EA have made. It's very difficult to stop these through balls even if you defend them perfectly, so it's better to lower that depth, as it's pretty much the only way to actually stop them, unless you have defenders like Lucio or Maldini, which the majority do not have. If you do have those players, you can up it a little bit, but I suggest having it quite low, like 46, just because of how the game is, unfortunately. But yeah, for offensive tactics guys, for build-up play, I suggest using balance. The reason for this is it gives you the most control when you are building up the play. Sometimes if you use something like fast build-up, your team moves out of shape way too quickly and everything does happen a bit too fast, especially if the gameplay is a little bit delayed. You'll notice players move quicker than you can actually make the attack, if that makes sense. So having it on balance does work very well because it gives you the most control in the formation. For chance creation guys, as always, I do suggest direct passing. The reason for this is if you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you will see the white dots, which are your attackers. They make dynamic movements with this setting on. You'll see they're constantly moving around to penetrate the defensive line. That doesn't happen with something like balanced, as you'll see. They're very static. They move around a little bit, but they don't actually actively move to create those attacking options. So I suggest direct passing, especially if you are on the next gen, but if you are on old gen, you could still use something like balanced and you won't notice much of a difference. Now for attacking width guys, I suggest having this on about 47. The reason for this is I've noticed playing down the wing is a little bit better than it used to be, especially with like how controlled and explosive players are now. So it's actually quite good to be able to utilize the wings when you need to, but it's also still quite narrow because it is below 50. So although it's very narrow, you can still play down the wings with those wide cams, so it does actually work very well. If you want to lower the width or up it, that's completely up to you, but 47's given me good narrow attacks with the wing if I need it, you know, so I can play narrow primarily, but I can utilize the wings also. Now for plays in box guys, I do suggest having this on about 6 or 7 if you want, or even maybe 5, something in this area, because you know you do want to commit players into the box, but you don't want to overcommit to the point you have nobody back. So I've found 6 to be a good middle ground where you do get a lot of players into the box to create those chances, but you're not super vulnerable for those counter attacks. It's pretty similar with corners and free kicks. These are down to preference also, but I suggest having this on 2 for the same reason of players in box. It's nice to have a few players into the box for these set pieces, but at the same time you don't want to overcommit these players and become vulnerable to counter attacks. But yeah, if you want to up this or lower it, that's completely up to you. But the players you want to use in this formation guys, in the 2 striker positions, you can pretty much use whoever you want to, as it is a 2 striker formation. When you are in a 1 striker formation, I feel like you're a little bit more restricted because you need the striker to be much more well rounded, but with the 2 striker formation you can pretty much much do what you want. You know, some people like to go for one tall striker, one smaller striker to get a balance. Some people like two smaller strikers, and some people like two very well-rounded strikers. I go for Keane and Leao at the moment. Keane's like a very well-rounded striker. Leao's a bit more of a taller runner striker, you know, so I have a nice balance in attack, but it's pretty much up to you who you use in the striker positions. Same with left cam and right cam, you can use whoever you want to. I do suggest more technical players in these positions, players that can dribble, players that are agile, players that can obviously cross the ball, shoot, you know, basically do a bit of everything. But there is one added bonus that you can have in these positions. If you can find a very attacking minded player with good stats who also has a high work rate, so for example Phil Foden, that will work very well, especially in this position, because you're going to see in the player instructions why this works so well. So if you can get a high in the left cam or right cam position, that is very good. But if you can't, don't worry. The most important part in these positions are having those good attacking players that can really do the job. Now for your left CDM, I suggest more of a defensive player, so I'm using Patrick Vieira. Ideally you're going to get like a medium high player in this position, but as you'll know, this version of Vieira, the baby Vieira, is a medium, but because he has very good defensive stats, the work rate isn't too important. But yeah, you are going to want like a medium high player here if you can, but don't worry about it too much if you can't. Just make sure they have very good defensive stats, because that is going to be their main purpose in this team. Now for the right CDM, I suggest more of a box-to-box kind of player, so I'm using Park Ji-sung. He has very well-rounded stats, like pretty much all of his face stats are above 80, so you do want a very balanced player in this position, a player that can do it all. You also want like a high work rate if you can in this position, because you're going to see in the instructions how this player attacks and defends, so it works very well. If you're struggling for coins and you need that type of player, I do suggest somebody like Renato Sanchez, because even though they're 80 rated and very cheap, they are still very good in this game. You don't want to underestimate that card, trust me. For your left back, I suggest like a more attacking player, so I'm using Theo Hernandez because he has good attacking stats, but he also needs to be able to defend also, so that's why Hernandez is good. In the right back position, I suggest a more defensive, you know, stay back player, so I'm using Kyle Walker. It's nice to have that balance in the fullback positions, but as I'm going to show you in player instructions, you can pretty much use whichever fullbacks you want, but you'll have to adapt your instructions for those players. But yeah. Okay guys, for the player instructions on both strikers, I suggest stay central and getting behind. The reason for this is you don't want them drifting off to the wings, as you've got the wide cams for that, so you don't need them to go into those positions. You want them to stay central so they're always in those attacking positions to score those goals, and we put them on getting behind because this is the best attacking AI you will get out of these players. It doesn't always mean you have to play the ball in behind to these players, it just means they will make those runs to really disrupt the defense. Let's say I want to play short, like play the ball to Keane and do it short, I can just tap R1 and Keane will come short, but by default it just means they'll make those runs so you get the best movement out of your players. Now for my right cam, I actually have get into the box for cross and free roam. The reason for this is Chiesa is like the most technical player in my team, so I do want him to get into the box for cross, not because I always want to cross the ball, it's just so he makes those runs into the area, so he is more involved in the play, because sometimes if you use balanced crossing runs, they stay out of the box, they don't get involved and they don't really offer you anything. So get into the box for cross is very good, and I also have him on free roam because I don't want to restrict him as much, because like I said, he is my most technical player. I like to give him, you know, a bit more of a loose role so he can do a bit of everything, and it actually works really well for me. But if you don't want to do this, you can just put it on basic, stick to position if you want to, but I think free roam on one of your cams is really good. And for the left cam, it's like just get into the box for cross, for the same reason as the right cam. We want him to get into the box, but we don't always have to cross the ball, it just means he'll make those movements. And the reason I said the high work rate is very good in these positions is because we do have them on basic defensive support, so when we are defending, the cams will come back to make this a 4-4-2, so we'll defend with the defenders, and then we'd have Foden, Vieira, Park Ji-sung and Chiesa, and then we'd have Keane and Leao sat in front of them. That's why the high work rate is very cool, because when we are defending, that transition is very good. But like I said, it's not a necessity, you don't have to have it, it just works very well. For the left CDM, the more defensive defensive CDM, you're going to want cut passing lane, stay back while attacking, and cover center. That's because we don't want him to attack, as that is not his job. We want him to stay back at all times for defensive support. We want him to cover the center because we don't need him to cover the wings. We've already got 2 players on each side for that. We need him to cover those central areas as people like to play through the middle. And we have cut passing lanes just so he's annoying and always cuts out those passes. Now for the more the more attacking CDM, the more box-to-box player, I suggest just having him on cover center because we don't want to restrict him in any other area, because we do want him to attack and we do want him to defend. That's why I said the high work rate is very important, because when we do go forward, he will commit to the attack, and when we do lose the ball, he will transition back. That's all because of the high work rates. We also have him on cover center because, again, we don't need him to cover that wing. Now for your more attacking fullback, guys, I suggest balanced attack and overlap, leaving the other things alone. The reason for this is when we are attacking, we do want him to overlap, as we want to get as much width as possible. Sometimes if we have them on like mixed attack, they will come too central and they don't really do much. So having it on overlap means they will always overlap the wide cam to give you extra width, which is very good for stretching those narrow formations like the 4-1-2-1-2. We have him on balanced attack because, like I said, Hernandez is my more attacking fullback, so we do want him to actually contribute. But let's say you have 2 defensive fullbacks, you could just have them both on stay back while attacking, and that is fine. For my more defensive fullback, my right back, I have him on stay back while attacking and overlap. The reason for this is by default we do want him to stay back while attacking, but let's say I do trigger a run forward with him, I will want him to overlap the same way Hernandez does. I don't want him to do those inverted underlap runs, we want him to overlap. But yeah, they are my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-2-2, guys. If you have enjoyed or found them useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all later. Peace.